Hello and welcome to Network Africa. My name is Layo Adegoke. Coming up on the program, 25 soldiers killed in an attack on a military camp in Niger. A high court in Kenya summons the Attorney General to explain why Miguna is not allowed back in the country. Plus, South Africa's ruling party ANC marks its 108th anniversary. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. The army in Niger says a military camp was attacked by suspected Islamist militants, killing at least 25 soldiers and more than 60 assailants. This attack comes just days ahead of a summit in France with West African leaders to assess military operations in the Sahel region. The attack took place on an army outpost in western Niger, just a few kilometers from the border with Mali. It is close to where 71 soldiers were killed just a month ago in an attack later claimed by Islamic State group affiliates in the region. Along with neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso, Niger has been a front line in the war against Islamist militancy for many years, but the number of attacks has increased significantly despite the presence of thousands of troops. Now, senior officials from the U.S. Military Africa Command have visited a military base in Kenya that was raided by Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab on Sunday. The military base, Camp Simba, is in the popular coastal region of Lamu and is used by Kenyan and U.S. forces for training and counter-terrorism operations. One U.S. military service member and 2 contractors were killed in the attack, according to a statement by General Stephen Townsend, the commander of U.S. Africa Command. The U.S. Army officials were briefed about details of the attack and assessed the situation at the camp. An unspecified number of U.S. soldiers have already been deployed to secure the military base. We have now security expert Temitope Olodo joining us on the program to discuss more on the security situation. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, although Al-Shabaab has repeatedly staged attacks in Kenya before, these have been soft targets such as hotels, shopping malls and public transport rather than hard military targets. What message do you think the militant group targeting a U.S. Special Forces camp sent to America? Seems like we're having issues with getting Temitope Olodo. We'll try to reconnect with him. In the meantime, a Kenyan High Court has summoned the Attorney General to explain why multiple court orders allowing for the return of deported lawyer and opposition figure Miguna have not been acted upon. The court ordered Attorney General Paul Kariuki and a senior representative from his office to appear before it on Monday to find out why the Immigration Department had failed to comply. This week, Miguna was scheduled to return to the country and had obtained a court order barring the government from stopping his entry. The Ministry of Interior has said it will facilitate his re-entry. But 2 airlines in Europe stopped him from flying home this week as red alerts had been issued by the Kenyan government preventing him from boarding. We now have security expert Temitope Olodo joining us for more on the security situation in Kenya. Thank you so much. I was asking you that Al-Shabaab has repeatedly staged attacks in Kenya, but they've been soft targets. What message do you think these hard target military targets, I beg your pardon, what message do you think is sending to America, especially when they, attacked their U.S. base?
I think what is different with the Trump administration is their persistent and constant attack on Somalian, on Al-Shabaab leadership. And what I've seen now, or what we're seeing now in Africa, and it's not just in Kenya alone, but across the Sahel, is that the terrorist group are now focusing more on military and hard targets rather than on population. The attack on Kenya's population in the past had more or less turned the hearts and mind of the people against them. But if they now concentrate on hard target, you'll see that there will be less interest from the population, and that is just a change in strategy by Al-Shabaab.
Some analysts have even gone as far as saying that this attack is a ploy to gain more propaganda points. What do you say to that?
They are changing their narrative and their shift, their approach in terms of what they target and how they target. In fact, Al Shabaab unfortunately do not have, they don't have petrol tanks, or they don't have planes or drones that they could use against a U.S. Establishment. But for them to go as far as attacking a hard base like that shows a change of tactics and an intention, to hit America where it hurts most.
The U.S. has been involved in conflicts with al-Shabaab in recent years. Since the election of President Donald Trump, drone strikes have been aimed at their leaders and strongholds have, sharply risen. Is America winning the fight against insurgency in this region with this drone strike tactic?
America is trying their best to help to reduce violent extremism and terrorists on African soil. I think the work needs to be a collective work with Amazon, African Union, and other regional bodies coming together, just like was done recently by the ECOWAS, where there is a deliberate discussion about how to improve regional security. Because if you don't do that, the terrorists are going to approach almost every state, and every country will not be spared.
Let's turn now to the Sahel security. The latest attack on Niger's military camp killing 25 soldiers. Now, this comes days before the summit in France. What do you think should be the main focus of this summit as far as security is concerned in this Sahel region?
I think it is sad that 25 soldiers have to lose their lives, in such a gruesome way. However, that said, I think what is needed now is seriousness from African leaders and the leadership to invest more in the area of intelligence. And I think there's been a lot of discussion about purchasing weapons, about cooperations, but that cooperations where there are no intelligence is a waste of time. And I think there is need across Africa for the intelligence framework to be really increased and beefed up so that they will be able to deal with the issue of terrorism on the ground in Africa.
All right, then, security expert Temitope Olodo, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Moving on to other stories now. French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian has met with Tunisian President Kais Saied in Tunis, warning that the destabilization of their neighbor, Libya, could impact the security of all in North Africa. Le Drian said he updated the Tunisian president about discussions that took place in both Cairo and Brussels as the European Union seeks to avoid being sidelined while Turkey and Russia jostle for influence in Libya. In a joint statement, Turkey and Russia urged Libya's warring parties to declare a ceasefire on Sunday, January 12, as both factions clashed and carried out airstrikes in the conflict, drawing increasing foreign involvement and concern. But General Khalifa Haftar's eastern-based Libyan National Army has rejected the ceasefire call. To politics now, South Africa's governing African National Congress Party is marking its 108th anniversary. The celebrations are expected to be held at the Tafel Lager Park Stadium in Kimberley, Northern Cape Province on Saturday. The party initially banned its members from carrying umbrellas to cope with the hot weather, but a recent press release says the item is now allowed. The party says it is endeavoring to create a safe, conducive and convenient environment for all who attend to the celebration. The celebration also comes amid blackouts and apportioned power cuts caused by failing electricity plants in the country. The United Nations is seeking $200 million in aid as millions face hunger in Zimbabwe. The United Nations World Food Programme has warned that millions of the citizens pushed into hunger by prolonged drought and economic crisis face an increasingly desperate situation unless adequate funding for a major relief operation materializes quickly.
Elias Shamba, a 53-year-old farmer, says the weather has been getting hotter and drier in recent years. Last year, he managed to harvest only 6 bags of maize and lost 2 rounds of planting because of drought. When his stock of food rations ran out, he was forced to collect insects at night for the family's meals.
I am a farmer. I grow sorghum and maize as well as cotton. When food runs out, we're now forced to survive mainly on the food we receive from WFP.
Years of drought have slashed food production in Zimbabwe, once the breadbasket of southern Africa. The country is experiencing its worst economic crisis in a decade, marked by soaring inflation and shortages of food, fuel, medicines and electricity. In August 2019, the World Food Programme was forced to launch an emergency lean season assistance programme to meet rising needs months earlier than anticipated. Bread now costs 20 times what it cost 6 months ago, while the price of maize has nearly tripled over the same period.
Things are rotting in this market because of prices. Because today tomatoes it will go $250, tomorrow $300, tomorrow $400, and people they don't have that money.
The UN agency has warned that communities will face an increasingly desperate situation unless adequate funding for a major relief operation materializes fast. With nearly 8 million people, half the population now food insecure, the agency is working to double the number of people it assists to 4.1 million.
2019 has been an exceptionally tough year for all Zimbabweans. We see a factor or a combination of factors, economic downturn, climate change and subsequent droughts that have led more than 8 million people into food insecurity. As in WFP, we're looking at ramping up our response over the next couple of weeks to reach almost double of what we have planned.
Drought and flooding have tightened the availability of food across much of southern Africa. WFP aims to purchase supplies from Tanzania in the form of maize grain, as well as from Mexico, and pulses from Kenya and potentially the Black Sea area.
The United Nations envoy to Somalia has flagged the world body's belief that confidence-building efforts and dialogue between the authorities in Hargeisa and Mogadishu could bring about broad benefits in several areas. The UN Secretary-General's Special Representative for Somalia, James Swan, was addressing the media after meeting with Somaliland's President Musa Bihi Abdi and members of his cabinet. The visit is his second to Somaliland in 6 months. On it, he also met with other stakeholders for discussions on a range of developments.
The United Nations welcomes initiatives aimed at building mutual confidence and fostering dialogue between Hargeisa and Mogadishu. We believe there are many areas in which greater cooperation could improve security, promote economic growth, and improve the lives of the people. We welcome the inter-party dialogue and urge implementation of the recent agreements that would enable preparations for elections to be held in 2020. We call on Somaliland authorities to ensure respect for freedom of speech and assembly, as well as the ability of political parties to organize and function. Such political space is essential for a credible process.
Still to come on the program. In keeping the peace in South Sudan, the UN's mission commander visits Lirangu to check on the progress made so far. Stay with us.